Welcome back to the show. Former head coach Eric Mangini joins us.
What up, Coach?
Happy Halloween, Coach. You dressed up for the festivities. Thank you so much.
I did.
Yep.
Former Browns coach. That's what I'm going as this year. A lot of people have that costume in Cleveland.
Coach, a joke.
More and more every year.
Yeah.
Do you guys get together?
Oh, it's like, you have the same costume.
Yeah.
That's great.
That is very
We
funny.
bump into each other. Your club.
Club.
Yeah.
Every third Friday of the month, former
get
Browns
together.
coaches get together.
Yeah. We need more space.
Coach, busy day in the NFL yesterday. That'll happen when you put a deadline on trades. We call it a trade deadline. A lot of talk about where Broncos wide receiver Demarius Thomas would be traded. Turns out it was the Texans. After losing Will Fuller for the year, the Texans acquired Thomas from Denver for a 4th-round pick and a swap of 7th-rounders. So Thomas will pair up with DeAndre Hopkins as the Texans continue their playoff push. I'll start with you, Coach. What impact will Thomas have on this Texans offense?
I really like this trade. Now, I was surprised that Houston would do anything with a former Denver player based off the Brocktoberfest, experience, but they went back to it. Losing Will Fuller and to be able to get a player, a quality player at this point in the season is really hard. You look at the waiver wire at the beginning of the season, there's not much there. When you get to mid-season, to try to get a guy that can actually have an impact on what you're doing, it's almost impossible to do. So losing Will Fuller and being able to replace him with Demarius Thomas, I think, is a great situation for them. And Tennessee is trending the right direction.
Texans.
I mean, Tennessee's not trending the right direction.
Right.
Yeah, they're trending the right direction, and I think this is going to open up things offensively. It's a big physical guy who maybe hasn't produced as well as he has in the past. But if you get him reinvigorated, you get him into a team that has a real chance, and you send a strong message to the rest of the team that we're going to do whatever we need to do to move forward.
So we know that Demarius Thomas's production has dropped off significantly since Peyton Manning stopped being the quarterback there. Now, part of that might be deteriorating skills. Part of that might be the drastically deteriorating quarterback play. This will be the best quarterback he's gotten to play with since he was having Pro Bowl caliber seasons in Denver with Peyton Manning. Now, he doesn't have the same skill set as Will Fuller. Like, the Texans had a really good wide receiver duo, but not a deep wide receiving core, which is why I think they made this move. They had DeAndre Hopkins, who's one of the best in the league, and Will Fuller, who was one of the best deep threats in the league. And they liked the kid they drafted, Kiki QT, as a rookie slot receiver. They drafted in the 4th round this year, I think. But after that, talking about Sammy Coates and guys that are practice squad type of players. So I understand them wanting to plug in Demarius Thomas opposite DeAndre Hopkins, but he brings a very different skill set than Will Fuller did. Will Fuller brought straight line speed. He had an excellent rapport with Deshaun Watson on the deep ball. I don't know if Demarius brings that, but I do think he's better than Sammy Coates. I do think he makes them better right now. What the Texans say is we're 5-3. In a winnable division. We potentially, if the Patriots or Chiefs backslide, maybe we somehow could turn 0-3 into a bye. Like, we're going to go for it right now, and giving up just a 4th-round pick when you're probably going to win your division, I don't think that's overpaying for Demarius.
I could say he's a solid receiver. That's about as high as I can take it right now. Sometimes his hands are not dependable. Sometimes you don't get the type of effort you think you're going to get out of the body type. I mean, his dimensions are amazing. Almost 6'5", about 225 pounds. Used to be able to run 4.4 every day. Now you don't necessarily see that. So I worry, can they get him in that possession role and be able to feed him, because I believe Deshaun Watson will make him a better wide receiver, but are his hands going to be dependable? I know in the locker room, he's a hard-working guy. He will fit into the locker room. He's not a high-maintenance guy. You have not seen him, through all the criticism the last several years in Denver, do a bunch of complaining. So he will fit in to what Bill O'Brien is doing. And the Texans, they are trying. At 5-3, their roster did get better when you added Demarius Thomas to it.
Coach, this is an interesting Texans team to figure out. They're 5-3, but Nick points it out. These are close wins that they won.
Except for the last 2 weeks.
Right, they pretty close. Does this actually make them legit contenders in the AFC?
Well, losing Will Fuller, I think, would have hurt their chances dramatically, and that's why this trade was very important. Because if you're pushing all the coverage to Hopkins, which most teams do, that second guy has to have the ability to make you pay. And if you don't have that second threat that can make you pay when you take away the first guy, then you become less than one-dimensional. So that's why I think this is really important. Does this put them over the edge? I think this keeps them where they were, or keeps them pretty close to where they were with losing Will Fuller.
To your point, Jenna, because of the way they had won prior to these 2 weeks, they didn't have a big margin of error. They don't have a good offensive line. In fact, they have one of the worst in football. They are not an effective running team. We know that they have a lot of talent defensively, and for some reason, up until the last 2 weeks, it had been kind of playing hot and cold throughout the year. It hadn't been the consistency you would have hoped. Once you lose Will Fuller, to Coach's point, in these, the defense was going to have one game plan and one game plan only. Stop DeAndre Hopkins. Now that they have Demaryius Thomas, they at least have to be cognizant of the threat opposite DeAndre Hopkins, which I don't think they would have had to be if it's Sammy Coates out there.
One thing, if I'm a wide receiver coach for Houston, I'm a little more concerned of how I get him involved in the offense, because he's limited for what he can do. He's typically the X, the boundary receiver. Typically, he has not gone in motion. So Nick pointed out he's going to get a lot of single coverage. Coach pointed out he's going to get a lot of single coverage. He's been getting that opposite of Emmanuel Sanders. So that's not going to change. He's not like Golden Tate. Golden Tate, you can do more things to him. Golden Tate, you can move him around. And Golden Tate is so good after the catch. So I look for Golden Tate to have a bigger impact in Philadelphia compared to Demaryius, what he's going to do for the Texans.
And what I'm curious to see, Chris, is with Deshaun Watson and all the plays that he makes off script, how is that going to play into his skill set? What kind of an impact can he make when the plays break down, Deshaun's moving around, and see how he fits into that part of the equation, which I don't really know at this point how that's going to look.
And this year, and to that point, the few big plays down the field he has made has been when Jenna's guy Case is running around off schedule. Case has been actually quite good this year on those. The one thing he's been quite good at this year is those deep passes rolling out, or when the protection breaks down. I want to ask you one question, C. Why does a player, aside from quarterback change, why would a player who was seemingly on this trajectory go maybe this one or even down the way Demaryius has during what is, age-wise, what you say should probably have been the prime of his career?
He's a great player. You think at 30, everyone thinks everyone's going to play till they're 32, 33. We don't know where the ceiling is. We don't know if Peyton Manning brought the ceiling. Was that the ceiling for him? Was that as good as he's going to get? And that's what I thought. That's as good as he's going to get. He was a good player, never a great player. Great attitude. He's got a good story personally off the field. But we don't know how high the building's supposed to be. Is it supposed to be 8 stories? It's supposed to be 80. Now, a lot of times we think because a guy's trending, we think we know. We don't know most of the time. Is this guy close to tapped out? And Peyton Manning and that system, Adam Gase, what they had there in Denver was really, really special. And that brought out the best football in him. That football we'll never see again.
And it's going to be interesting, too. This is the first time he's played for anybody else.
Yeah.
Like his whole world has changed dramatically. How is that going to impact him? Is it going to add some energy, some fuel, some motivation for him to try to get to that 80th floor? That to me is another exciting part of this.
All right, great note about Case Keenum. Got to take a break. Coach, stick around. Coming up, should Aaron Rodgers be furious that the Packers were sellers at the deadline? Next up, First Things First.
He's done well scrambling, but when he drops straight back, he's thrown 10 picks.
Yes. Yeah.
On schedule.